Well, good morning, everyone. I'm here today to address the 1976 coal policy and our government's decision last spring to rescind it. First, to every single Albertan that has expressed their opposition to this decision, your government has heard you. Further, I want to thank you. Thank you for being engaged and passionate. Thank you for caring about your province and its future. And thank you for speaking up and being heard. An important part of being a responsible government is to admit when you've made a mistake and to fix it. And that's what we are doing here today. First, Alberta's government will reinstate the full 1976 coal policy. This includes the 4 land categories that determined where and how coal leasing, exploration, and development could occur. We recognize that rescinding this policy has caused tremendous fear and anxiety that Alberta's majestic eastern slopes would be forever damaged by mountaintop and open-pit coal mining. Let me be clear, this will not happen in Alberta. That's why, in addition to reinstating the policy, I have issued 2 directives to the Alberta Energy Regulator. Number 1, no mountaintop removal will be permitted, and all of the restrictions under the 1976 coal categories are to apply on surface mining in Category 2 lands. Number 2, all future coal development and coal lease sales on Category 2 lands is to be paused indefinitely, pending consultations on a new, modern coal policy. On this, I need to be clear about the current situation in these Category 2 lands. First, there are 6 projects that are being explored for potential development. This means that core samples are being taken, perhaps roads are being built. It does not mean that a project will be developed. And second, exploration on 4 of these 6 projects began under the 1976 policy before its rescission. That means that the 1976 coal policy did not preclude coal lease exploration, and it also means that putting it back won't necessarily end exploration. Further, reinstating this policy does not affect current coal exploration and mining on any other categories of land. I will provide details on what the new coal policy consultation process will look like in the weeks ahead. However, I do want to provide some context around our decision in the spring to rescind it. First, we felt that a number of its provisions had become outdated. For example, the policy predated what we now know about climate change, and it referred to thermal coal as being a clean source of energy. Second, we intended to manage coal on an equal footing with other mineral resources like oil and gas. We felt that this would streamline regulatory matters and provide more certainty for government and stakeholders. However, Albertans' views are clear. They expect us to manage coal differently. What we're doing today, keeping the 1976 coal policy in place and committing to consult on a modernized policy, is what we should have done in the beginning. We didn't do it then, but we're going to do it now. As we move forward from today, I want to assure Albertans that we intend to balance stringent environmental protections and responsible resource development. This government will not allow coal developments to jeopardize the mountains, headwaters, foothills, parks, and the recreation areas that we cherish. After all, this is what makes Alberta an attractive place to live and to do business. Alberta has a rich history of responsible coal mining. It's been an important part of the province and important to its citizens for decades, with many Albertans continuing to rely on the industry to put food on their families' tables. Metallurgical coal projects, if approved through vigorous regulatory processes, can help Alberta businesses meet increasing global demand for steel and provide good-paying jobs for hard-working Albertans. And given today's economic climate, that's not something that can be taken lightly. Like many that I've heard from in recent weeks, I too have roots in southern Alberta. I'm a southern Alberta farm girl. Those areas are part of my childhood. And when I heard from so many Albertans what this area meant to them and saw the pictures that they provided, it really hit home. I'm absolutely committed to ensuring that future generations can enjoy these lands just as I did. We will continue listening until we get this right. Thank you, and I'm happy to take your questions.
Thank you, Minister. We have time for one question, one follow-up today. Operator, can you please put through the first caller?
First question is from Emma Graney with the Globe and Mail. Go ahead, Emma.
Yeah, g'day, Minister. Quick question on the consultations. What's the timeline?
What's the timeline? Well, we anticipate having a process ready to roll out in the weeks ahead. The consultation will be vigorous. It will be lengthy. It will hear the input of all Albertans on all views related to coal. We want to take the time and get this right and hear Albertans and decide what the next steps are. But this will be a process that will take time and will be very, very open, and we will listen.
And my follow-up to that is, why didn't you do that in the first place?
Well, we should have done better, and we admit that we didn't get this one right. We were not perfect, and Albertans sure let us know that. We could have done a better job. But from our perspective, what we saw was a policy that was obsolete, written many years ago, predated our modern understanding on climate change. And what we intended to do was to change the administrative process by which the Department of Energy issues tenure, issues leases. What we didn't anticipate was the unintended effect of removing the coal categories, and Albertans felt that that removed restrictions that were in place. So we are listening. We've heard that. It was not our intention to do that. We're going to take the time. We're going to take a closer look at this and hear from Albertans as we move forward with a modern coal policy.
Operator, can you please put through the next caller?
Next is Graham Thompson with iPolitics. Go ahead, Graham.
Thank you very much. Minister, the Premier last week was saying that the old 1976 policy was a dead letter. So I'm a little confused here. If it's a dead letter, why are you bringing it back?
Well, there's a number of things certainly in the policy that are obsolete. As I mentioned, it predated climate change and referred to thermal coal as a clean, non-polluting source of electricity generation. There were other elements of the policy that predated a modern regulatory process. There were other parts of the policy that weren't in line with trade agreements. So a lot in the policy was obsolete. What Albertans expressed concern over is that they felt that some of the restrictions and protections that were in the categories, the coal categories of the 1976 coal policy had been lost, and as a result that something had changed. That was not our intention, and that's why we are reinstating the policy in full. And to assure Albertans that we mean it, we have provided 2 directives to the Alberta Energy Regulator to reinforce that. And we're opening consultations so we can hear the views of Albertans on what they would like to see in a modern coal policy, and to hear their views on any matters in relation to coal.
And as a follow-up, just wondering, your colleague Jason Nixon, when he was defending the government's position on coal mining, referred to the Federal Impact Assessment Act, the old Bill C-69. Is your government still going ahead to try and fight Bill C-69 if you're actually still using it, though, as a defense to protect the environment in the Rockies?
Well, what we know for sure is that the modern regulatory process is very vigorous and assures that environmental protections will be robust. In some cases, there is a joint assessment with the federal government. We are continuing to challenge Bill C-69 in the areas of its overreach and where it intrudes into areas of provincial jurisdiction. But I can assure you that the modern regulatory process and the environmental impact assessment process is rigorous, and that Albertans should be given some comfort and assurance that all environmental protections will be stringent.
We have time for 2 more questions. Operator, can you please put through the next caller?
Next is Robson Fletcher with CBC. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Minister. I was wondering what impact you think this will have on the additional activity when it comes to the 2 projects that received exploration permits after the coal policy was rescinded last June. Do you expect companies will continue with exploration activity that they're currently approved to do, given now the uncertainty that they may have surrounding being able to get additional permits for actual mining in the future?
Well, the AER directive will impact future approvals. There'll be no future approvals for exploration activities pending the consultation. And with respect to current exploration that was approved before this time, and much of it approved prior to rescission of the coal policy, I think it'll be up to companies to determine how they manage their coal exploration programs. But we don't intend to remove approvals that were already granted by the regulator.
And sorry if this was answered already, but I didn't quite hear it. So is there any type of timeline on the consultation process? Are we talking sort of weeks, months, sometime next year? When will it sort of take place and wrap up?
We'll be rolling out in the weeks ahead what the consultation process will look like. It won't be a short process. It will be a thorough process so that we have time to hear from Albertans. I'm sure that we're going to hear from a lot of them on what the future of coal looks like. We want to make sure that we get it right, give an opportunity for everyone to be heard and do it right. So I don't have a time frame on what that is right now, but we'll be rolling out in the weeks ahead what it will look like.
And operator, can you please put through the last caller?
Final question is Bob Weber with the Canadian Press. Go ahead, Bob.
Hello, Minister. Given that you directed the AER to ban any mountaintop mining, and given that the Category 2 lands bans any surface mining, how much activity do you expect to see on those lands? What does this do to the government's plans to dramatically expand this industry and generate the jobs and the royalties you'd hoped?
Well, what we've done is we've put an outright ban on mountaintop mining, which seems to be the pictures that are circulating out there. That will never be allowed in Alberta. The coal categories in the 1976 coal policy had restrictions on surface mining in Category 2 lands. They are fully restored, and it's been communicated in a directive to the Alberta Energy Regulator to restore that coal policy. So we obviously want to ensure that responsible coal mining can occur in the future. There is a tremendous resource of metallurgical coal in Alberta, and the world is looking for steel-making coal. We want to make sure that it can proceed responsibly in the future, and that's what we're doing with this, and that's what we're doing with opening consultations. It's a question of balancing the interests here, balancing the views of Albertans, and making sure that there is a clarity and a path forward for investment.
Have you communicated this morning's announcement to the Coal Industry of Canada or to the companies that are now working in Alberta?
We're in the process of communicating this with all Albertans. We're in the process of reaching out to stakeholders. I've had an opportunity to pre-brief some stakeholders, and in the days ahead we'll be talking to numerous impacted stakeholders, including the coal industry.
Early reaction.
Pardon me?
Have you had any early reaction to the pre-briefings and the discussions you've had with stakeholders?
Well, we want to. What we want to do here is we want to listen to a broad group of Albertans, and we'll certainly hear their views. But with respect to reinstating the coal policy, I think we had heard from a lot of Albertans, that that's what they wanted, that's what they'd like to see, and we listened and restored those coal policies. So I think it was the right thing to do, and I'm looking forward to the consultations ahead.
Thank you, folks. That's all the time we have today.